everybody, and welcome to another Florida-friendly landscaping educational program. Today, we're going to talk about something very, very common. I don't think you can, step outside and get through a day without seeing some type of grass or some type of lawn. So it is something well worth discussing. It is part of our lives, and it's not going away anytime soon. So the best thing we can do is talk about how to take care of a lawn properly. So we are going to discuss everything you always wanted to know about your Florida lawn. I am Lilly Browning. I am the Florida Friendly Landscaping Program Coordinator here in Hernando County, Florida. I work for Hernando County Utilities. I work for the water department. So it is pretty much an imperative that I, from time to time, discuss lawns because, believe it or not, and this is pretty much the average across the country, the water that my department delivers, out to the community. Guess how much of that, what percentage of that goes on people's lawns? It is 60%. 60% of the water we deliver here in Hernando County, Florida to our customers goes directly on their lawns. That is kind of why my position and why the Water Conservation Department exists, because that is something that I hope to see change in. And so here are the 9 principles of Florida-friendly landscaping. When we're talking about lawns, number 1 is very much important: right plant, right place. Lawns is probably the number 1 plant that we try to force to be in the wrong place. And we're gonna cover some of that and some alternatives to that. Water efficiently, oh my gosh, so extremely important when it comes to water conservation as well as the health of your lawn. Fertilize appropriately. That is probably, lawns are definitely the number 1 plant that people misuse fertilizer on. So, and number 6 is covered in lawns: managing yard pests responsibly. Recycling fits in with lawns, reducing stormwater runoff and protecting the waterfront. So let's start talking about lawns. And I know a lot of people who follow Florida Friendly Landscaping or are passionate about kind of going back more organic and going back more into native plants, which I'm all for. I am a native plant proponent. I'm a native plant lover. I'm also a realist. And I know that people, are not going to give up lawns. Now, my lawn, I'll tell you right now, does not require any extra water or any extra chemicals or any extra inputs on my part. Does it look like the most beautiful lawn in the world? No. I'm going to show it to you in this presentation. It doesn't, but it looks good enough. But there are people in situations, they're in deed restricted communities, and they have to follow very high standards. That's the thing that I think in the future is going to have to change. I personally don't see the grown-up Gen Z people caring as much about lawns as we do. And that could be a very good thing for the future. But I don't see lawns totally disappearing. So all things in moderation. That is really one of the keys, to whether or not we have lawns or whether we do. All things in moderation. That goes back to right plant, right place. But let's talk about the history of lawns. Let's think back to European times. Now in Europe, in England, there are meadows, there are natural meadows full of grasslands. which by the way, do not exist in Florida. The only grasslands we have water right underneath it. But even in Europe, think about, there was the lords, and they had their, the peasants, who lived under them. So if you think about the difference between the lord's manor and the peasants' homes, the peasants had little grass, thatched huts or whatever, and whatever little piece of land they were given to live on, they had to make use of every inch of it for survival. And even after, the first people came, well, really they came, to St. Augustine and started a city there, but thinking about Jamestown, Plymouth Rock, all those places, they didn't come and lay down sod and, so they could get their CO to move into their house. No, they cleared places in the forest and they used every bit of land, every inch of it for survival. So back to those lords of the manor, having land with nothing but grass on it that was not particularly useful, except maybe possibly, if they were using fields to feed animals. But if they just had big grassy meadows that were, eaten up by livestock, you know what that said to the other lords of other manors? Look how rich I am. I have land I don't have to use for survival. I have land that can just be there and look pretty. So that kind of got into our psyche. So then, we came to America. And in the beginning, I'm sure the first several hundred years, everyone used their land for survival purposes. And then we got more comfortable in America. People's, had a little bit of extra income. So they started using that status symbol, even in the little bit of land that they had. And what really pushed it would have been the invention of the reel mower, REEL, the reel mower like they had on the Waltons, that, and a gardening hose, so that you did not have to pay someone with a sickle and carrying buckets of water to keep your lawn. So that made it available to your ordinary working class, everyday American. And then they say, I don't know whether it's true or not, that magazines like Better Homes and Gardens kind of started up the trend that, okay, get your reel mower, get your gardening hose, and people started moving out of the cities into the suburbs. So then they're like, lawns are it. I mean, if you don't have a lawn, then, perhaps you're not a good citizen. So that's kind of stuck in our brains now. I think over time, again, we can change some of that, but that's the history behind lawns. It is made, not saying it doesn't have practical purposes, because it does, but really what started it with was just saying, hey, look how rich I am. And then, hey, well, I'm a nice, good citizen too. I live in the burbs and I have my little garden, my lawn, and, I'm a good American. That's kind of how it got stuck in our heads. So let's talk about turfgrass benefits, because every plant has a benefit. And as I said, there are groups of people out there, and if you want to have 100% native yard, I will encourage you, I will support you 100% of the way. But I'm not going to point fingers and judge you if you choose another route, as long as that route ends up being a Florida friendly route. And we're going to cover, a lot of that, because there are, and I've been spoken to by, a few people that might have said, they might say, hey, I just want something as a good ground cover that I only have to go out there and mow, and that's it. I don't want to be fussy with flowering plants, or a lot of them. I understand that, and I respect that choice too. And in that situation, if things work out in the yard, if it's the right plant in the right place, that may be the right plant for you. So let's talk about there are benefits to turf grass. We've got it stuck in our psyche again, so that makes it appealing. Also, there's another class that I have on Hernando County Government YouTube that goes into the psychology of why people prefer grass. And if we look at this house here, it provides that nice flat open surface so we can read what's going on ahead of us. And this has some nice curb appeal so we can, and I always say, if I can't see the front door very well, that concerns me, makes me a little anxious and nervous. So it helps relieve our anxiety by having that flat open space that we can read the situation that we're going into when we're approaching your house. They say it raises property value. Dr. Lester has told me when he bought his house several years ago, they had the appraisal for it. He didn't see one single thing on that appraisal talking about the lawn at all. So curb appeal, yeah, getting people attracted to your home possibly, but maybe not any particular monetary value. It's a plant, it's a ground cover. It does reduce stormwater runoff by, capturing the water and letting it infiltrate into the ground. It can filter out impurities. Not if you're putting a lot of impurities onto it though. So you have to think about that. And these are exactly the reasons you see turf along the roadsides for reducing stormwater runoff, filtering out impurities, reduces erosion. That's the main reason you'll find it on the roadsides. It's a plant, it produces oxygen, that's a good thing about it. It cools and cleans the area. Where would you rather stand, on, a hot asphalt parking lot or in a patch of grass? I know when I, go to do certain events and have to put up a table and my canopy and stuff, if it's in the warmer months of the year, if at all possible, I'm looking, for a patch of grass to be in, preferably with a tree there, as compared to out on the asphalt. We all know that it feels much better there. Reduces glare. Noise. Yeah, it does reduce noise. But what we need to maintain it creates more noise pollution. So that's kind of a catch-22 there. And as I mentioned before, it can be the most practical choice for some areas in some situations. Oh, every grass that we have here, I'm really only going to cover two. I'm going to mention a new one at the end. But for now, in Central Florida, most likely you are going to have St. Augustine, Floratam, that type of lawn, or you're going to have Bahia. If you live in the villages, you might have zoysia grass, which I'm not covering today. But any of those that I mentioned, we have warm season grasses here in Central Florida, here in Florida in general, because 8 months a year, maybe 9 months a year, we're in a warm season. Therefore, we want these warm season grasses. They need 6 to 8 hours of sun every day, all year long. That is the beginning point. So if you're struggling in an area, that may be, one of the issues that you have is that it does not have that amount of sunlight. So that might be something where you want to start thinking about changing the plant that you have in there. So as I mentioned, we're going to talk about the most common found turf grasses here in Central Florida. So you may hear you have Floratam, and then other people say, I have St. Augustine, or you have St. Augustine, and you get confused. Okay, so let's kind of break that down. St. Augustine has about 20 different varieties. So are you following that? So Floratam is a variety of St. Augustine grass. It is the most common turf grass put down for homes here in Central Florida. As I said, if you're listening from the villages, you may have zoysia grass. I would suggest you contact your Lake County or your Sumter County, or your Marion County Extension Office to ask for the care of your zoysia grass, because I'm just not going to be able to get to it today in this hour time frame. Or you can email me and I can send you information as well. But that floratam outside of the villages is the most commonly used turf grass put down. And where did its name come from? Well, it was released in 1973, which means this is a lab-created turf grass. All the St. Augustine varieties that they had up to that point had terrible chinch bug problems. So they thought, let's work on that. And they created in a lab, vegetatively, this floratam grass. It was created by the University of Florida, Texas A&M. See that? Florida, Flora, Texas A&M, TAM, floratam. That's where its name came from, the two universities that, created it. And they created it vegetatively. So therefore, that is why you can't find seed for, this cultivar of St. Augustine grass. It's not a scam, or some, reason to make you spend more money. It's that seeds don't exist for it because it's, made from different types of grass. It's made clonally and vegetatively. It was, when it came out in 73, its purpose in life was to have strong chinch bug resistance. I think by 1980, it had lost that resistance. The chinch bugs evolved. Not going to worry too much about that in 2022 because I'm not hearing a lot about chinch bugs anymore. I think that is not as much of a problem as we have gotten accustomed to it being anymore anyway. It has a darker green color than some of the other grasses. I know you moved to Florida and one of the first things you notice is the grass isn't as green as it is up north. Got to remember, you are forcing a plant that would not grow here naturally in places where they would not grow naturally. So now, I'm not saying some grass wouldn't. We have bought a lot next door to us. Been a little bit, my husband is by hand clearing it. And in some areas that have been opened up, there is something grassy that took over. I sodded or seeded nothing. And there's some kind of grass that took over. Maybe it's native, maybe it's not, a weed. It looks good enough to me. But when Ponce de Leon came, he didn't find any lawns here. So you do have to remember, we're forcing this issue more than they are up north. And they have cool season grasses up north. So that's why it's green under the snow. We have warm season grasses. It's not, doesn't give you that vibrant green, except right after a rain that you may be used to seeing up north. So, but the St. Augustine is greener than some of our other options. It grows in runners, so it has good coverage and it establishes quickly, especially if you put it down a sod, or you can even use plugs. When I say it has slightly better shade tolerance, I think this picture must have been taken when this long grass was pretty new, or the shade does not last very long in this yard, because slightly better shade tolerance, and I have an entire class on gardening in the shade as well. If you are going to try and force lawns to grow in the shade, there are different rules as well. You have to let them grow even longer and never let anybody walk on it, and all these, issues, water it even less, but it has slightly better shade tolerance, certainly better than Bahia does. So floratam, like I said, it's no longer chinch bug resistant, but at county extension offices, at least the one in Hernando, they're not seeing chinch bug problems. People bring them grass samples and they look through it. They're not finding any living critter at all, which is pretty terrifying with what we may have done, you know, in the world that way. What they are finding 99% of the time, if their lawn has a problem, is a fungal disease called take-all root rot. So if you tell me I have a problem with my Floratam, I'm going to assume it's take-all root rot, but I would still take it to your county extension office and get it diagnosed. That is the problem of the era right now, not chinch bugs. Your St. Augustine is going to require some supplemental watering, not near as much as you think it will. And we're going to talk about what the word supplemental means. It will require some fertilization. It is a bit freeze sensitive. Years ago, you know, in the early 2000s, when I worked at the extension office, it was not horribly unusual to hear about a winter freeze event or several killing St. Augustine lawns. I haven't heard that in years, though. I probably haven't heard that in 15 years. So we just haven't gotten cold enough to kill them down to the roots. They do have poor wear tolerance. If that's a place where your dogs are going to run, that might not be, you know, a great idea, a great place to put St. Augustine grass. Thatch can build up, and that is caused by overwatering. And weed control is difficult in any lawn, especially after it's regularly 85 degrees during the day. We're there, we're already there. And so you really have to call your county extension office, talk to a master gardener. Here in Hernando, Bernie is a great one to talk to about weed control, but don't just pick up anything and try to use it. Because even if it says it's specifically for your lawn, it's possible with our heat that it'll change the chemical makeup and you end up killing the grass that you want. So the other very common grass around here is called Bahaya Grass. There are only 2 varieties of Bahaya Grass that I'm aware of. There might be a few more, but the 2 most common are Argentine or Pensacola. Pensacola is what you're going to see in the farmers' fields. Argentine is what you want to look for a lawn. It's just a little bit more civilized looking, I guess, more coverage for a home lawn. I always think Argentine A. I want an A+ lawn. That's how I remember that. And it was introduced from Brazil in 1914. It is pretty low maintenance. It's what I have. It does survive on natural rainfall. It'll go brown. It'll get crunchy, but it will come back. When you know, if we have in the winter or like now when we're not getting much rain and it's hot and dry, it might get crunchy before those mid-June rains start coming in. But it'll green right up. You know, like you could stand out there and like someone is filling up each blade with chlorophyll. It is really amazing. It has low fertility requirements. It can be grown from seed. I say that, and seed is outrageously expensive right now. Everything is. So it may not be a less expensive venture for you to get Bahia Grass seed as compared to Bahia Grass sod at this point. It's something you have to look into. I will tell you, last summer, for the first time in many years, I decided to overseed, and we'll talk about that, my Bahia, to kind of replace, you know, what out in nature in Brazil would happen. And, you know, just threw it over the top once the rain started of the lawn that existed. And a 10-pound bag was $70. I only did my front lawn. That's all I did. Cold tolerant means it'll come back from the cold. Doesn't mean it won't turn straw colored or golden, because it will. What do people not like about it? It's a little bit lighter green, so they're not as happy with it. This is my lawn last August, I believe. just a Bahia grass and weed lawn. It has an open growth habit. What does that mean? The St. Augustine goes in runners. The Bahia has like little clumps. So of course, that means what's going to encroach in those open areas? Weeds, of course. People get upset about that. The seed heads. You can go out there and mow and, within a couple hours, it seems like, certainly by the next day, these seed heads will pop up. I'm kind of happy to see them because I think, whoa, I do still have some Bahia grass in there. And those seeds can be viable, to help you produce some more. But especially people who live in gated communities, then they're hassled that they have mowed, but then these seed heads pop up and, they're hassled again. So some people aren't thrilled with that. It's not a carpet-like lawn. If you live right on the coast, it is not salt tolerant. It's a tough blade of lawn, and those seed heads have, tough stems. So it is tough on your lawnmower. So you just got to make sure you keep that blade sharpened often. And if you try to, I said you could get seed, but it is very slow to germinate. If somebody is starting from 100% scratch, just dirt, I would encourage them all day long to put down sod, because the seed is going to take forever. It's very, 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 very slow to germinate. You have to get it scarified. It should say scarified on the back. Scarified. That means it's been roughed up in a tumbler to try and crack some of that hard shell open. It's still going to be very, very, very slow to come up. And just like, we cleared this lot over here, this other side lot, something came in all by itself. It looks great to me, but what I'm saying is something's going to come in if you just have bare dirt and you're waiting on those seeds. So I would definitely, consider sod instead. So now we're going to think about what kind, what do I want to do? We're going to talk about 3 different levels of care: low, medium, and high. And you decide what you want to do. If you decide you're in the low maintenance, you're on that team. I'm on the low maintenance team. I will tell you what you have to do to have Floratam and maintain it on a low level, medium level, high level. Same with Bahia, and what your results will be. So let's say I want to get a Floratam lawn, but I'm only committing to a low level, and I'm talking about mowing it only. That's all I want to do. Okay. Can you have a nice Floratam lawn with a low maintenance? Yes, but it really goes back to that right plant, right place. So here is what that right place looks like for a low level: 6 to 8 hours of sun. Naturally moist area. Just lost most of you, didn't I? There are some people who have that, but if you're in really, really, really dry, you're going to have to do a higher level of maintenance if you want St. Augustine. Zero traffic, nobody walking on it, nobody driving on it, lawnmowers only, no dogs running on it, no kids playing on it. This is extraordinarily important. I know, I think almost all of you have heard me before, so you're tired of hearing this, but it is the most important thing. 4 inches or higher mowing. Here is a ruler that I made. Kind of hard to see in the camera here, but I have 4 inches marked. So if you ever see me, there we go, pick up one of these rulers and then, put it down to the ground and see if your grass is 4 inches high. That's extraordinarily important. You're going to have to tolerate some weeds. If you want St. Augustine or Floratam, and you only want to maintain it, on a low level. You're going to water it only during dry spells. Again, you need that naturally moist area. And don't bag up your grass clippings. Let them add back nutrients to your lawn. So that's what those are the existing conditions you have to have if you want to do low-level maintenance on your Floratam. Bahaya grass. Say I have some Bahia grass and I want to do mowing only. Basically me. Oh, I don't even do the mowing, but that's what I want to happen to it. You're going to have 6 to 8 hours of sunlight. Some of these things you're going to hear from me over and over and over. 4 inches or higher, mowing it, imperative. Either let it go to seed occasionally, deal with those seed heads, which you may not be allowed to do in your community, or spread that seed occasionally. That's what I was trying to accomplish last summer, because one of the master gardeners told me, in Brazil, where they got it from, it would just grow naturally, and then the gazelles or whatever animals would eat it and, kind of break it off and go to seed, or they'd eat the seed and then replant it with fertilizer, and that's how it regenerated. We cut it off and don't allow it to get to its natural height. So one way we can kind of reproduce what would happen in nature is just overseeding it every 4 or 5 years. I went like 13 years, overseeded it. And I also threw down a little bit of black cow with it too. Looked great last year, continuing to look great this year. Low traffic, it doesn't like people driving on it, or your dogs run away, things like that. Again, don't bag those the grass clippings, let them go back to the lawn. And definitely gonna have a lot of weed tolerance. I have some major weed tolerance. The only weeds I don't tolerate are sand spurs, and I try to stay ahead of those just by pulling them out. I don't know a lot at all about using herbicides for weed control. It's not my thing. So I send those questions to the county extension office. But I do know a weed expert at the university said that there's no weeds that have yet to develop a tolerance to hands or a resistance to hands. So I try to stay ahead of those. Any of the other weeds, they're usually pollinator attracting, they can stay. Green, mowable, looks good at 30 miles an hour as someone goes by. Those are my goals. And not green all year either. Here you go. Here's the results of low maintenance Bahia. I took to this a few weeks ago at my house. It is green, mowable, looks good at 30 miles an hour. I wish I had taken more over here. I have to show you to that another time. You can see the big pile of brush my husband has going on here, but in this front section, lawn just put itself there. Is it perfect? No, especially around kind of this parking area, but we just put this gravel in maybe last year. You can see, I can see, so I'll point it out to you where he drove his truck over it, and I'm not that happy about that, but that's not a common occurrence. But this is in the dry times. Green mowable looks good at 30 miles an hour if someone's going by. You're also going to have those weeds, and as I was mentioning, the weeds don't bother me. Here is one of my favorite weeds, native plant called many things. Turkey tangle fog fruit is one of my favorite names of it. Matchhead weed, it attracts these 3 lovely butterflies. Isn't that so much better than a sterile lawn? I like my living lawn. Freedom lawn is another name they have for it. Here's another thing, needs tidied up a bit, but this is my backyard. We put down these stepping stones to go to a pool. Well, my son-in-law did. And then you know what I did? Nothing. nothing at all. And within a couple of months, this crabgrass filled in the spaces quite nicely. Now the crabgrass, you can go ahead and mow really low if you want to, and, get a weed eater out there. It looks great. So, I think we have a lot of resistance to weeds when maybe we should just let them help us in our yards. Okay, let's move up to the medium amount of maintenance I want to do. So I want a Floratam lawn, and I am willing to do a medium amount of maintenance to keep it, to keep it going, and by that, I mean, I'm willing to mow, fertilize, and water it. So what do I need? What conditions do I need? I need 6 to 8 hours of sun. Weird to keep hearing that. I have to mow it or have it mowed to 4 inches or higher, and try really hard not to remove more than 1/3 of the blade at a time. Keep that mowing schedule going. Cut it with a very, very, very sharp blade, because a dull blade tears, a sharp blade cuts. Water it when it is needed, and we will discuss that. 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch of water, only when it's needed. Fertilize with a slow release nitrogen fertilizer twice a year. Scout, always be looking for take all root rot and treat for it. And again, don't bag those grass clippings. Those are still going to help you. They don't cause thatch. Overwatering is what causes thatch. So that's what I'm going to get with a Floratam lawn, which for a lot of people is, good enough with a medium level. Bahaya grass, I want to give it a medium amount of maintenance. I'm going to mow it, fertilize it, and water it when it needs it. So what do I have to have? 6 to 8 hours of sun, 4 inches or higher of mowing. Don't remove more than 1/3 of the blade. Very, very, very sharp. Remember, I mentioned Bahia is a tough grass. Maybe once in a while, a couple times a year, maybe, water it 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch in the really, really, really dry times, if you want to keep that green. Fertilize once or twice a year with a slow release nitrogen. Every 2 to 3 years, broadcast that seed around, as I said. And this medium amount of maintenance is going to give you your highest quality of a Bahia grass lawn. So keep that in mind. That's the sweet spot for Bahia, this medium amount of maintenance. All right, I'm willing to go all out. I'm going to do everything. I'm going to dedicate my life to this lawn. I want a high level of maintenance. I am going to mow, fertilize, water, do insect control, control the weeds, do the disease control for my Floratam lawn. So what does that mean? All of the steps I mentioned for medium maintenance, all of the requirements for medium and low. I'm going to learn my good bugs from my bad bugs, and I am going to scout for insect problems. I'm going to use pre-emergent weed control products in the spring and the fall, and I'm going to have a really good time figuring out when spring and when fall is in Florida. Keep a constant eye out for that take all root rot problem. I will not overwater, because that's going to cause problems for my lawn. I'll fertilize 4 times a year, -1 because I let the grass clippings go. And you can skip 1 fertilizer a year if you don't bag up your grass clippings and let them go back to the lawn. In the summer, if it's looking a little not as green as I want, I'm going to put a foliar spray of iron on it. And this may sound really, really, really harsh, but it is absolutely a truth if it is not in one of those naturally moist areas that we referred to, and you can't stay ahead of the take all root rot. Be prepared to replace sections or all of your lawn every few years if you want it looking perfect. And of course, calibrate and maintain your irrigation system. That's a lot of work for a perfect Floratam lawn, but that's how you'll get there. High level for Bahia, don't do it. Don't do it. It will hate you. Do not do it. It will rebel, and you won't have a good time. So as I said, that the sweet spot for Bahia was that medium maintenance. Don't do all this stuff to Bahia. So now that we discussed, the levels, high, medium, low, and the specifics between Bahia and St. Augustine, I'm just going to discuss, we're going to pull out of those key issues, those important issues when it comes to lawn care. Number one, mowing it high. If you mowed it high, if you mowed it at 4 inches, look, this is not 4 inches. It'll be higher than you think it should be, but why do we push that so much? More surface area, for one thing, to photosynthesize better. More root growth occurs with more shoot growth. You will be crowding out those weeds that might be trying to get in there. All of those reasons, it's just the plant is healthier when you let it, when you don't try to keep it at 2 inches. You don't live on a golf course. It is not a Bermuda variety that is meant to be an inch tall. It is a lawn grass that is going to thrive the best and be its healthiest and able to ward off take all root rot or other problems if you let it be 4 inches. So just think of it this way: mow it high and it won't die. Mow it low and it won't grow. It goes for Bahia and St. Augustine. Also, I kind of mentioned before, grass clippings, they don't cause thatch. Overwatering and a shallow root system and just about a hydroponic lawn, that's what causes thatch. You let, if you absolutely must bag up your grass clippings, throw them in your compost bin or on your compost pile. Don't pay to throw them away. That really just makes no sense whatsoever. But it is really beneficial to your lawn. Each one of those little blades of grass that you are seeing there, they're 98% water, but you know what else? They have enough nitrogen in them. University of Florida says you can skip 1 fertilization a year if you do that. So, and you know what's the best thing about the 2 things I just discussed, mowing high and letting your grass clippings go back to the lawn? They're so easy. We really try to overthink things when the answer is just do it the easy way. And here in Hernando County, here are our watering days. This is for everyone. Why do I have a picture of a well here? Because if you have one of these watering restrictions apply to you. Yes, they do. I answer this question at least weekly. Nobody owns the water here in Florida. Everybody does, and nobody does. We're all taking the water from the aquifer, and here in Hernando County, everyone is on 1 day a week watering restrictions, according to your address as listed down here. And you may water before 8 a.m., which is what Florida Friendly Landscaping would recommend, or after 6 p.m. So if you have any questions about that, you can certainly, give this number a call, the Water Conservation Department, 352-754-4705. Call that number and someone you know very well will either answer or call you back. Here I am, that's me. All right. This goes for St. Augustine and Bahia. Let your lawn tell you when to water. Now you're allowed to water 1 day a week. Do you have to water 1 day a week? No. And one of the things that I really like to drive home, somebody said it once, and it's so important. We've got something mixed up in our brain. You have an irrigation system. It came with your house because you moved to Florida and they told you you're going to need one. Did you have one up north? Possibly, but it's also very, did everyone you know up north have one? No. So it is, you come down here and they make you think it's a necessity. Your irrigation system is a supplemental system to natural rainfall. Your lawn is made to survive on natural rainfall. If it's St. Augustine and needs some help every once in a while, that's what your irrigation system is for. We've got it so backwards. We think that irrigation system is life support for our lawn. If it is, that's not sustainable, and we can't keep that up in the future. We just can't. So when should you mow your lawn? When it tells you to. When over 50% of the blades fold in half. See, these St. Augustine blades are kind of folded. They're trying to conserve the water that they have. Or you walk across them and you can see your footprints there for a little while. It's losing elasticity. It's becoming dehydrated. Those are two signs that your lawn will tell you, hey, maybe some water here. If it doesn't rain before my next watering event. Does it say water me right now or I'm going to die? No. It says when it's your watering time, if it's not too much trouble, could you give me a drink? Unless nature's going to do it for me first, and then everything will be fine. I mentioned you need 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch of water, your lawn does, each watering event. That will go down 12 inches in the soil. And your roots might only be about 8 inches. 8 inches would be fantastic for grass roots. So and you're going to say to me, I don't know what that means. 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch. What does that mean? Tell me how long to put on each stone. I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know, because I don't know your irrigation system. I don't know your water pressure. There are lots of issues that I don't know. But I'm not going to leave you hanging. There's an easy way to do this, to deliver that 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch. You see these tuna cans on this grass here? Get a Sharpie, measure. You can use my ruler. I got about 1,000 of these. I'm glad to share them. To measure that 3/4 inch mark inside and put those randomly around your zone. Turn your zone on. You are allowed to check your system. We're going to have a class specifically on an irrigation system coming up, and Dr. Lester's going to be here with me. So we'll get more into details about it. But put that zone on for 15 minutes and then measure. If it only got halfway to your mark, what does that tell you? Oh, set that zone for 30 minutes. See, there's a little bit of math involved, but, or if it went over, then set it, for less than that. So that way it's not rocket science, but I bet you'll be using less than you are now. And you'll be doing it, giving your grass what it needs. A lot of people say lawns waste water. And I told you, 60% of what we give out goes on lawns. Lawns don't waste water. I've never seen a lawn crawl into a garage and turn on an irrigation system. The lawn will use what it needs. You give it more, it's either going to turn into runoff and go down the street, picking up pollution, or it's going to go straight through all the sand into the aquifer. So who is the waster of water? You're right. We are the ones. So we are the ones who need to take control and do it better. Overwatering, big problem. And that creates that favorable environment for fungi and bacteria. If you want take all root rot, it exists in our soil. So I'll tell you how to encourage it to, take over your lawn, water a lot, fertilize a lot, and cut your lawn very short. If you want St. Augustine, or I'm sorry, if you want take all root rot, that's the way to do it. So overwatering creates a favorable environment for fungi and bacteria, promotes that shallow root system, reduces oxygen to the roots. It encourages water-loving weeds such as dollarweed. Sometimes people come to us and say, I have all this dollarweed. How do I get rid of it? Outing themselves. Unless that is in a naturally low, wet area, they're outing themselves. They're watering too much. I have photos of dollarweed growing in a lake. It likes it wet. So that is kind of an indicator there too. It's an unneeded expense. Even if you're not on a municipal watering system, it costs electricity to run that water. You're the one who wastes the water, and it's going to cause possible runoff, leaching, as I just discussed, even moldy sidewalks and walls from that overwatering process. So irrigate efficiency, that's Florida-friendly landscaping principle number 2, efficiently. And Dr. Lester and I are going to discuss this more in an upcoming class. So I'll go through quickly about, you don't want different kind of heads in the same zone, irrigation heads. You do want head-to-head coverage, meaning here's a sprinkler head, here's a sprinkler head. You want the water here to reach that one. You want this water here to reach that one, so you don't have uneven dry spots. Keep those heads clean. They fill up with sand pretty quickly around here. Avoid blocking the spray. Sometimes we plant a little palm tree that becomes a big palm tree, and all the sprinkler is doing is bouncing off of it. Your shrubs and your trees, I'm going to give them a long time to establish. I'm going to give them 2 years. If they are over 2 years old, tap off the irrigation system. They don't want it. They don't need it. They don't need the water that your turf needs. Make sure you have an operating functional rain sensor, and go check your time clock in your irrigation box there. Did you change it when the time changed? Was there an electrical surge? Did you check it then? Keep those things in mind. Leaks. Leaks, they can, underground leaks can be pretty ugly like this. Or you might have Old Faithful here and not know it because it happens at 2 in the morning. Or you might have some wet, squishy areas in the lawn. As you know, I work for the water department. So I'm going to show you what an irrigation leak really looks like. Yeah, this is somebody's real bill from a real leak. Hard for you to read, so I'll explain it to you. In December of 2016, this person used 9,200 gallons of water, and their bill was $20.29. Following month, they had a leak, and they ended up using 218,700 gallons of water, and their bill was $2,606.76. Not something anyone wants to get. If you are a customer of ours and this happens to you, when you are able to get back up, give us a call. Call customer service. Don't call water conservation. I can't help you with that. I'll just switch you to customer service. But we do have adjustments. We do once a year for specific, very specific. It has to be an underground leak, and there's all these rules. But you might be able to get an adjustment on your bill for that. Just know that. At least here in Hernando County, I can't speak for anywhere else. Here's somebody's new sod bill. They got new sod put in, and their sod company told them just water each zone an hour a day. And here's what happens. They went from February of 2016 using 26,000 gallons. That means they were watering once a week, maybe a little more. I can usually tell. I can tell by the amount of gallons that you use if you are a non-lawn waterer, if you're following the once a week, and if you're not. They got new sod, and which you are given a variance. You can water that in. But they listened to the sod company, so they used 146,000 gallons that month, 146,100, and their bill was $1,390.88. Again, you can get an adjustment here in Hernando County for new sod. But if you have used it for a leak within that year, you don't get it. It's a once a year deal here. Still a pretty good deal though. But if you get new sod, don't worry what the sod guy says. Give us a call. Here in Hernando County, you'll have a 60-day variance. These are the amounts of time you are allowed to water. It is also what is best for your newly establishing lawn. Don't worry about trying to read this. It's a graduated system. Email me. I'll be glad to email you the 60-day rules. So there was one gentleman that I knew of that followed them. First of all, they're going to tell you run your zone for an hour each. Don't do that. That's a big waste of your money. It's a big waste of water. Now, this is the gentleman that we were involved with in a gated community, and he was getting new St. Augustine Floritam sod. And one of the things he did, which I'm going to discuss near the end, was put down compost first. And he promised me that he followed this schedule, this graduated schedule of frequent light watering to the T. So here's what happened with him. This is the month he, did not have new sod. He used 14,000 gallons and had a bill for 32. In November, he put down new sod. So he ended up using more gallons of water, but following this schedule, he used 20,700. His bill went up to $49. I'm sure all of you can handle that compared to the other. So just keep that in mind. And this schedule is also what is best for your newly establishing lawn. That take-all root rot is a key issue here in Hernando County with Floritam lawns. Here's what it looks like. Our master gardener here, if you bring in a sample, they want you to bring in half good, half bad. Maybe a 12 by 12 patch that has some of the good turf and where it's dying out. And these roots should be white, and they're not, but they'll put them under a microscope and they'll see the spores. They'll know. And they'll be able to tell you a management plan. See this lawn here, this picture does have take-all root rot, but you can't tell by looking. It looks like every other problem that a lawn could have. So weed control, like I said, I'm not big into weed control, and I would send you right to the county extension office to get Master Gardener Bernie's opinion and to get Dr. Lester's opinion. But I can tell you to avoid weed and feed products. I don't have time right now to get into it, but they're not for Central Florida. Make sure you buy the right product for the right type of lawn at the right time of year. And here's Hernando County's Master Gardener phone number. If you call on a Thursday, you get to talk to Bernie. He'll be glad to guide you in that process. Here in Hernando County, we do have a fertilizer ordinance. So you are not allowed to fertilize your lawn from January 1st to March 31st as a homeowner. So keep that in mind. Yeah, you can buy it at the store. Our ordinance wasn't able to legally tell the stores not to buy it, not to have it available. But it is still an ordinance here in Hernando County. If you're going to fertilize, please follow the University of Florida's recommendations while following the Hernando County ordinance. I say that because University of Florida is talking to the entire state. They're not keeping up with whose ordinance is when. So that being said, you may get a publication that tells you to start fertilizing March 15th. Wait 2 weeks. You can wait 2 weeks. It won't hurt your lawn. That goes against our ordinance. Our ordinance doesn't end until March 31st. Just keeping that in mind. Follow that label. The label is the law, and it is scientifically written to have the best results for your lawn. Make sure your spreader is calibrated properly. Apply it evenly, or you're going to have some funky looking checkerboard lawns there. Don't apply it when heavy rain is expected. If you have a fertilizer spill, please clean that up with a broom. Put it back in the lawn or back in the bag. Do not hose it down and send it down the street. Just like water, lawns don't waste fertilizer. They did not go to the big box store and buy their fertilizer and put it on themselves. You do, and you have to do it properly. Too much nitrogen is going to cause more take-all root rot, fungal issues. It can burn the grass. And of course, it gets in our waterways and causes pollution. And fertilizer will not fix disease or insect problems. Shade is another key issue. People try and force it to grow where it's not going to grow. Remember, I've said about 15 times, you need 6 to 8 hours of sun all year long. So if you have a shady area, choose a shade-loving plant for that area, a ground cover, bushes, azaleas, something, that'll grow better in the shade. Also the intensity, not just I get some sun. It needs some pretty intense sun as well. Trees not only cause shade, they cause competition for turf to grow. They're going to fight for the soil space, for the water, the oxygen, and the nutrients. So, this just is not an area where any grass is going to grow. Going to have to maybe even just mulch it. Just don't mulch too much of that tree. Leave the flare of that tree out around the tree, but this rest of the area, fill it up with mulch, and you can have a very attractive looking area. Here's again that exact same picture that I said was take-all root rot, but could be anything. So you do need to have it diagnosed. You can have those recurring fungal problems. Sometimes compact soil causes your lawn problems. Improper maintenance for sure. Sometimes there's buried building materials. My house is 15 years old. I'm still finding building materials when I dig up anything. It is very, very difficult. So if you have a lawn guy that just stands there and looks down 6 feet down at the lawn and declares what the problem is, I'd be very suspicious, and I would take a sample to your county extension office for a more proper diagnosis. Sometimes it's not going to work. Let's go back to right plant, right place. Sometimes lawns are not the right plant in the right place. So then you choose something else. If there's a problem, if there's a problem area, stop fighting it and go with it. Put something else there. Here they created, in the side yard, a beautiful walkway with these bromeliads and other plants. Install some kind of hardscape or a different kind of ground cover. And in doing so, and reducing our lawn space, you're going to reduce water consumption. Because remember, I said after 2 years, you can turn off the irrigation system. If you have like flowering herbaceous plants, you might want to install a micro irrigation system, or go out there and with your rain barrel water in a bucket, or handheld hose and water it only when it needs it. Saves time and energy on lawn maintenance, reduces the use of all kinds of chemicals. You will have a reduction in air and noise pollution. Remember at the beginning, I said grass does help with noise pollution, but on the other hand, it helps create noise pollution and trying to care for it. A 3.5 power lawnmower pollutes as much in 1 hour as a car driving 350 miles. Also, these days, gas is so much, so we use less in our lawnmower. That's a good thing too. You'll have enhanced biodiversity and, different types of plants. Diversity is always the key to a healthy ecosystem. And you can do it in a way that really enhances your property, makes it look very attractive. Here's the thing I was going to mention, that the gentleman who followed the watering in new sod plan, and I mentioned he had compost put down. This is a kind of new and exciting thing. It's been being studied for a while at University of Florida by Dr. Eben Bean. He wrote a blog about it here. He's been working at On Top of the World in Marion County. And they have test plots for the new houses and things. So basically what he does is put down a compost product. Right now there's just one supplier that he knows of. So he gets a product called Command, C-O-M-A-N-D, 1M. Puts it down over the topsoil, or over we don't have topsoil, I wish we did, anyway, the fill dirt. And sometimes he tills it in. That's what he's doing there. He's doing different experiments. Sometimes he just piles it on top and then puts the sod down. He's been having very good results. And that gentleman who followed the watering rules for new sod did the same thing. Still very happy. I spoke to him maybe a month ago, still very happy with his lawn. And so you put down this compost material. What it does in that fill dirt that they give you when they build your house is it improves the nutrient holding and the water holding capacity of your new, for your new sod. It might have some abilities to reduce the instances of the take-all root rot. So, and then after that is done, every 3 or 4 years, top dress it, meaning put it down like a fertilizer, just compost. So if you're past this, it's too late to put this under your soil. You can always use it, use this. I used black cow last summer. Use mushroom compost, some kind of compost material. Hernando County Solid Waste will have a product available in a few years. I'm not exactly sure when, that you can go up there and get. And it really does help improve, said, the nutrient holding and the water holding capacity of the soil for your lawn. I think it's a very exciting new thing. And here's something new. I only mentioned Floratam and Bahia because they're most common around here. But I just spoke to somebody yesterday. We had master gardeners from Lake County come up and visit our master gardeners. Yes, Polk County. He was in Polk County. And there's a supplier there of this new this new St. Augustine variety called Citra Blue. And this gentleman got some and put it down a year and a half ago. He's very, very happy with it. In fact, he was told to water it less than once a week. And it has kind of a unique blue-green color. So we're getting more to the color that we like from up north. So here's some information. I'm just putting it out there because remember way back in 1973 when St. Augustine Floratam was the answer. So I'm hesitant to say any turfgrass is the answer, but it's available. It's an alternative. So, something to look into called Citra Blue St. Augustine. Just another thing for you to research there. Here is not the answer. Just not having any kind of lawn or filling it all up with rock or even just all mulch. If you want to have a Florida-friendly yard, you have to have at least 15 or more different species of plant life. So no plants is not the Florida-friendly way. And the biggest thing you need to do is embrace imperfections in your lawns, because there's no such thing as a weed-free, insect-free, disease-free, perfect lawn. Here are some of the resources that I used. You can get lost down a rabbit hole in University of Florida or IFAS websites. IFAS, again, is the Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences. They have a whole Florida lawn handbook that probably has 20 different publications you can read about different types of lawns and their care. So that is where I would encourage you to go. That is your land grant university. That is a research-based institution that is not trying to sell you anything. So do your research and your homework, before you purchase anything or before you hire anyone. And for, weed control, fertilizing, things like that, I would refer you to Dr. Lester, the urban horticulture agent, or call the extension office and ask to speak to a master gardener. If you would like a PDF copy of this program, I'll have my email again at the end. Just email me and I'll be glad to send you one. Here are upcoming classes. Next week, I'm going to be talking about deterring nuisance wildlife in your yard. Kind of different for me. I'm always talking about how to attract wildlife. Well, I know you don't want all of it. So we'll be discussing ways to keep out the ones that, try and keep out the ones you don't want there. What I keep hearing a lot about lately are deer and coyotes. So we will definitely be discussing those and things that you can do. I will have an in-person class on May 11th at the Spring Hill Library on Spring Hill Drive. Landscape care when it's hot and dry, because it will be then. No, it'll rain that day because it always does when I do a specific program like that. I'll do it again on May 11th in this type of format, in a Zoom format. On May 18th in the Zoom format. May 25th is when Dr. Lester and I will do this virtual class on getting to know your irrigation system. We will really get into details in that one. Then June 1st, I'm going to have a pollinator plant starter kit class. So lots of great classes coming up. Here again is my email at LillyB, LILLYB at hernandocounty.us. So if you have any questions or would like a PDF of this PowerPoint, I'll be glad to email that to you. So thank you, everybody. We've gone over time a little bit, but thank you very much. And I will see you again next week for deterring wildlife in your yard. Thank you and have a great day.